You know about the story, the tragedy that happened in this American city. Mr. Larry presents Baltimore. Police versus African Americans. This is my opinion on the Baltimore situation. Welcome to a very special Mr. Larry Stories. Good morning, everyone. This is Mr. Larry, and today I'm going to tell a story. Not my story, but a political story. How shall I begin? This story is about the city of Baltimore. As many of you already know about this story, recently there have been protests, including violent protests against oppression in this city. It all started off with a straw that broke the camel's back. A young African American man was brutalized by the police, and this brutality became fatal for him. He died, unfortunately, this young man. The straw that broke the camel's back. Now in Baltimore, there has been many people who are struggling there. And it's almost like third world struggle. In one of the world's wealthiest country. It just doesn't make sense. Because these individuals were struggling so much, they had to deal with economic as well as social oppression. So when that young man died, basically, and yes, he was a straw, people became angry. Some people protested quietly and possibly constructively, while others protested violently, which caused a lot of destruction to certain areas in Baltimore. Now, another part of this story is that the state prosecutor, I believe it was the state prosecutor, decided to press charges against these officers. And what makes this story even more unique, that many of these officers were African American. Of course, when people saw the pictures of these criminals, the officers, they claimed that this problem was not a racial issue. It was non-racial. But I beg to differ. Let me break this down to you. We all know, well, most Americans know, that the United States has a class culture. And I shouldn't say class culture, I mean a class structure. There are those in this country that are very, very wealthy, part of the 1%, to the point it is like inherited wealth. There are those who are upper middle class, maybe working class, and then we have what are called the poor. The individuals who constantly need assistance from the government. And some may even fall below that. After all, we do have a homeless problem in this country. And when you are poor, or even below poor in this country, you are treated not like a human being. In some cases, when you are poor, you are invisible. But it's a little different when you're black. Black has become the face of poor in the United States, which is not always true. Now, there's an interesting thing about class in the United States. As many of you may know, and some of you probably disagree with me, there is a racial hierarchy in this country. There are people who belong to the same class, but may be lower on the economic level due to their race. They may not get the promotions that they deserve because of their race. They may not get good opportunities, even though they work hard for it, because they do not belong to a certain racial network. And those who do excel have to adorn a mask, a white mask. And unfortunately, this mask really kill their spirits. I've seen it before, basically. I've seen it. And it makes them hate themselves. So, in a nutshell, America class structure mixes in a racial hierarchy, where you have people that belong to the same class may not have the same opportunities based on race. This is America class structure. Once again, it is a mixture of economics and racial hierarchies. And so, when those police officers attack that young man who is from the ghettos in Baltimore, they were basically attacking him because he is black. Even those black officers. See, many people do not realize, even in the African American community, there is a class structure. And sometimes that class structure is influenced by the racial hierarchy. There are many well-off African Americans who belong to the upper class and middle class that do not value other African Americans who are struggling. They see them as the untouchables, just as broader society see them as the untouchables. And as the untouchables in India are considered to be not human, as just animals, many blacks who are very poor in this society are not seen as humans. But let me think about this for a moment. Maybe it really isn't an issue about race. Maybe it's just an issue about human rights. Human rights, treating everyone with dignity, no matter of, let me try to say this again, no matter where they are in the economic structure or class structure, and no matter what their racial or ethnic background, what their backgrounds are about. That's my opinion about Baltimore. And as I mentioned before, it is a racial issue. It is also a class issue. And at the end of the day, it is a human rights issue. Well, thank you everyone for hearing me out. If you want to give me your opinion, please express them in the comments below, whether you agree with me or disagree with me. I love mail. I love you, Larry, Mr. Larry. As well, I love hate mail too. I hate you, Mr. Larry. I really don't mind, because that means that we are going to begin a discussion here. And hopefully this discussion will help save our country, and which will help save our world. Thank you for listening to Mr. Larry's Stories. I will tell you a nice story the next time. Good.